The day my cousin stabbed me in the back wasn't with a knife, but with a PowerPoint presentation. I remember sitting in the back of my aunt and uncle's living room during our annual Thanksgiving dinner, watching him. He stood there, beaming under the warm lights, pointing a laser at a projection on the wall. And on that wall, in bold, clean font, was the name of my startup, my idea, my dream. And he was claiming it as his own. My heart didn't break. It didn't shatter. It just went cold. It felt like a block of ice had formed in my chest, and I could feel the frost spreading through my veins. In that moment, watching my family applaud him, watching my own parents look at me with a mixture of confusion and pity, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when everything you thought was true burns away, leaving only a hard, cold reality. And in that reality, I knew exactly what I was going to do. You see, what my cousin Mark didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that 6 weeks earlier, I had quietly filed a provisional patent for every single aspect of the technology he was so proudly presenting. The game wasn't over. It had just begun. Mark and I grew up like brothers. Our moms were sisters, and we were only a year apart. We lived 2 streets away from each other our whole lives. We learned to ride bikes together. We built forts in the woods behind our houses. We shared secrets we'd never tell another soul. I was always the quiet one, the thinker, the kid who would take apart the family radio just to see how it worked. Mark was the opposite. He was the talker, the charmer. He could sell ice to an Eskimo, as my grandpa used to say. He had a smile that could disarm anyone, and a confidence that bordered on arrogance, but people were drawn to it like moths to a flame. As we grew up, our paths diverged but always stayed connected. I went deep into computer science and coding. I loved the logic, the clean lines of a well-written program. It was my art form. Mark went into business and marketing. He was a natural. We were 2 sides of the same coin, and we always joked that one day we'd team up and take over the world. The idea for Aura came to me on a Tuesday night. I was scrolling through my social media feed, feeling that familiar, vague sense of unease. We give so much of ourselves away online. Our photos, our thoughts, our location data, our shopping habits. We pour our lives into these platforms, and in return, massive corporations sell that data to the highest bidder. We are the product. What if we could flip the script? What if you, the user, owned your own data, all of it, in a secure, encrypted digital vault that only you could control? And what if companies had to pay you for access to it? Not some faceless corporation. You, direct deposit into your account. You could set your price. You could approve or deny any request. It was digital sovereignty. I called it Aura because your digital presence, your data, is like an invisible field around you. It's yours. I was so excited I could barely breathe. I spent the next 3 months in a caffeine-fueled haze, coding the framework. I built a working prototype on my laptop. It was clunky. It was ugly, but it worked. I created a test profile, generated some dummy data, and then with a few clicks, I locked it down. I sent a data request from a separate program, and watched in real time as my prototype asked for my permission, stating who was asking and what they wanted. I clicked deny, and the connection was severed. I clicked approve, and a mock microtransaction went through. It was beautiful, but I knew my limitations. I could build the engine, but I couldn't sell the car. I could write the code, but I couldn't stand in a room full of investors and convince them to give me millions of dollars. That was Mark's world. I called him, my voice trembling with excitement. I showed him the prototype. His eyes, which were usually buzzing with a dozen different thoughts, focused on my laptop screen with an intensity I'd never seen before. He got it, instantly. "Alex," he said, his voice low with awe. This is it. This is the one. This changes everything." And just like that, our childhood dream was reignited. We were a team. I worked on the tech, refining it, making it stronger, faster, more secure. Mark worked on the business plan. He designed a sleek logo, a compelling pitch deck, and started mapping out our strategy. For a few months it was perfect. We were in sync. We spent late nights in my small apartment, fueled by cheap pizza and the intoxicating belief that we were on the verge of something huge. He was the voice. I was the architect. We were going to be unstoppable. The first crack appeared about a month in. We were on a video call with a potential consultant, a friend of Mark's from business school. Mark was walking him through the pitch deck. So, the consultant asked, who's the brains behind the tech? It's pretty revolutionary. I leaned forward, ready to explain the architecture. But Mark just laughed and said, well, I came up with the core concept, and I have a cousin, Alex, who's a great coder helping me with the build-out. I felt a small, sharp sting. Helping me. I let it slide. He was the front man. Maybe that's just how he had to phrase it. It was for the good of the company. But it happened again and again. In emails, he'd refer to it as my project. When talking to his friends, he'd explain the concept as if it had sprung fully formed from his own mind. The we slowly and surely started turning into I. I tried to talk to him about it once, gently. Hey man, I said. It feels like I'm being written out of the story a bit. He put his arm around me, flashing that $1 million smile. Alex, don't be so sensitive. You're the tech genius. I'm the business guy. We're a team. I'm just tailoring the message for the audience. No one needs to know the nitty-gritty. They just need to trust the face of the company. And right now, that's me. You and I know the truth. That's all that matters. He was so convincing. He made my concerns feel small, petty even. And I wanted to believe him. I really did. This was Mark, my cousin, my brother. I was just being insecure. So I pushed my doubts down and kept coding. But a seed of unease had been planted, and it started to grow. One evening, he was at my apartment, and he left his laptop open while he went to take a call. An email notification popped up on his screen. It was from a designer. The subject line, new logo mockups for Aura by Mark Jennings. Aura by Mark Jennings. My blood ran cold. It wasn't Aura by Alex and Mark. It wasn't even just Aura. It was his. In his mind, this was already his company, and his name was on the door. I looked at the screen, my heart pounding. It felt like I was looking at evidence of a crime. He came back into the room, saw me looking at the screen, and his smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Just some ideas the designer was playing with, he said, closing the laptop a little too quickly. You know how they are, trying to build a founder brand. But I knew he was lying. I could feel it in my gut. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the trust I had in him corroding away with every tick of the clock. This project was my baby. I had conceived it. I had brought it into the world. And he was trying to steal it from me, right in front of my face, using my own trust against me. The next morning, I made a decision. I didn't say a word to him. I didn't confront him. I acted like everything was normal. But while he was out at a networking lunch, I was on the phone with a patent attorney. I used the money I had been saving for a down payment on a house to pay the retainer. The lawyer, a sharp no-nonsense woman named Miss Evans, listened patiently as I explained the technology. I showed her my code, my initial sketches, my time-stamped project files. I explained my cousin's role, and my growing fears. You have a very strong case for sole inventorship, she said, her expression unreadable. The business plan is one thing, but the underlying technology, the how it works, that's the invention. And from what you've shown me, that's all you. She advised me to file a provisional patent application immediately. It would establish an official filing date with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and protect my invention for a year, while I prepared a full formal patent. Do it, I said, my voice barely a whisper. File it. A weight I didn't even know I was carrying lifted off my shoulders, replaced by a strange cold calm. I had an insurance policy now, a secret weapon. I continued to work on Aura, sharing updates with Mark, pretending everything was fine. I played the part of the naive tech guy perfectly, and all the while, he was digging his own grave, and I was quietly handing him the shovel. The breaking point, the moment of no return, was that Thanksgiving. Mark had told me he was going to prime the family on our project. I thought he meant he'd announce our partnership. I was an idiot. When he stood up, cleared his throat, and started his speech, I still didn't see it coming. He talked about the modern world, about data privacy, using all the talking points I had written for him. He was brilliant. I'll give him that. He had the whole family, all 20 of us, hanging on his every word. And so he said, his voice filled with passion, I decided I had to do something. I've spent the better part of this year developing a new technology, a platform that puts you back in control. I call it Aura. He clicked the remote, and the logo I had seen in his email flashed onto the wall. My stomach dropped. I could feel every eye in the room on him, filled with awe. My uncle, his father, was beaming with pride. My aunt had tears in her eyes. Then he did the one thing I never thought he would do. He pointed the laser at me, sitting in the corner. "And I have to give a shout out to my cousin Alex," he said, with the magnanimous air of a king thanking a stable boy. "He's been a huge help with some of the more technical coding stuff. A real whiz kid. Let's give him a hand." A smattering of polite applause, a few pitying looks. In that moment, I wasn't just his partner. I wasn't even a collaborator. I was help. I was a footnote in the story of my own creation. After the applause died down, my uncle stood up. "Mark, son, I've never been prouder. To think you came up with all of this on your own. You always were the brilliant one." No one corrected him. My own parents just sat there, stunned into silence. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, the block of ice in my chest, solidifying completely. After dinner, I cornered Mark in the kitchen, as he was grabbing another slice of pie, basking in the glow of his triumph. "What was that?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. He didn't even have the decency to look guilty. He just shrugged. "What was what?" "I gave you a shout out. The family loves it. Aura by Mark Jennings. Help with the coding stuff," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "This was our project, Mark. Ours." He put his plate down, and his charming facade finally dropped. His eyes went cold. "Let's be real, Alex," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You had an idea, so what? Ideas are worthless. I'm the one making it happen. I'm the one building the brand, talking to people, turning your little hobby into a real business. You can't do what I do. You can sit in your dark room and type, but I make things happen in the real world. You should be thanking me." He picked up his pie and walked away, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen, the sounds of my family celebrating my thief echoing from the other room. That night, the clarity I felt was absolute. My goal was no longer just to protect my idea. My goal was to let Mark build his entire empire on a foundation of lies, to let him climb as high as he possibly could. And then, at the very peak of his success, I was going to pull the floor out from under him. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about justice. The months after Thanksgiving were a special kind of hell. Mark went into overdrive, and I went completely silent. I stopped answering his calls and texts. To the rest of the family, it looked like I was having a jealous tantrum. My aunt called my mom, saying she was so disappointed in my behavior, that I should be happy for my cousin's success, instead of trying to tear him down. Mark was painting me as the disgruntled, bitter tech guy, who couldn't handle being a subordinate. And everyone was buying it. I became a ghost. I worked my day job, and at night, I worked on Aura. But this time, it was for me. I was perfecting it, hardening it, making it even better. I was also in constant contact with Miss Evans, my lawyer. The non-provisional patent application was filed, a behemoth of a document detailing every single line of logic, every process, every unique feature of my system. It was my declaration of ownership, moving silently through the bureaucratic gears of the government. Meanwhile, Mark's star was rising. He was a master of self-promotion. He used the family's adoration as a launchpad. He got a small write-up in a local business journal, then a feature on a popular tech blog. He was a guest on a podcast. His story was irresistible. The young charismatic visionary, who was taking on big tech all by himself. He never ever mentioned my name. The biggest news came about 8 months after that Thanksgiving. Mark called my parents to announce it because I still wasn't speaking to him. He had secured a final round meeting with Vanguard Ventures, one of the most prestigious and ruthless venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. The lead partner, a man named Julian Croft, was a legend. They were talking about a seed round of $10 million. $10 million. My mom called me, her voice a mix of excitement for Mark and sadness for me. "Alex, honey, maybe it's time to just let this go. Maybe you can talk to Mark and work something out. He's your cousin." "Don't worry, Mom," I said calmly. "I'm going to work it all out." The week of Mark's final presentation was the longest week of my life. I saw an article online with the headline, Vanguard Ventures poised to fund Aura, Mark Jennings' privacy revolution. There was a picture of him, smiling that confident smile, standing in front of an office building. He looked like he was on top of the world, and in a way, he was. He was standing on a mountain built of my work, my sleepless nights, my passion. My lawyer, Miss Evans, had a plan. A beautiful, simple, and utterly devastating plan. We don't send a letter beforehand, she had explained. We don't give them a chance to prepare. We let him give the performance of his life. We let the ink get ready to hit the paper. The shock value is our greatest asset. The day of the meeting, I couldn't work. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone. Miss Evans was flying to San Francisco for this. My money was running low, and her travel expenses were a significant hit. But she had insisted. Some things are worth doing in person, she'd said, with a rare smile. Around 2 p.m. Pacific time, she sent me a text. We are here. He's going in. I imagined the scene. Mark in his most expensive suit, walking into that glass and steel boardroom. The partners of Vanguard Ventures, including the formidable Julian Croft, sitting there, ready to be wowed. I knew Mark's pitch by heart. I had helped him write the first draft of it. He would be charming. He would be visionary. He would be a complete and utter fraud. The next 3 hours were agonizing. I paced my apartment. I made coffee. I didn't drink. I tried to read but just stared at the same page. Every minute felt like an hour. I was trusting my entire future, my entire sense of justice, to a plan that could go wrong in a dozen different ways. Then at 5:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from Miss Evans. Showtime. Here is what she told me happened next. Mark finished his presentation. He had nailed it. The room was electric. Julian Croft, a man famous for his poker face, was actually smiling. Mr. Jennings, Croft said, that was one of the most impressive pitches we've seen this year. The technology is elegant, and the market is ripe for disruption. We're in. The $10 million seed round is yours. Our legal team has the term sheet ready. Mark's face lit up with pure, unadulterated triumph. This was it, the moment he had dreamed of. He was shaking hands with the partners, laughter and congratulations filling the room. He was a king. And then the door to the boardroom opened. A junior associate leaned in. Mr. Croft, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a Miss Evans here. She says it's urgent, and it pertains to the Aura deal. Croft looked annoyed. Have her wait. She insists, sir, the associate said nervously. She's a patent attorney. The mood in the room shifted instantly. The smiles faded. A patent attorney showing up unannounced at the closing of a deal is the business equivalent of the Grim Reaper walking into a wedding. Miss Evans walked in, calm and composed. She was a picture of professional gravitas. She placed her leather briefcase on the massive boardroom table and looked directly at Julian Croft. Mr. Croft, my name is Evelyn Evans. I apologize for the intrusion, but I am legally obligated to prevent a significant error from taking place here today. Mark was staring at her, his face pale and confused. I'm sorry, who are you? I've never seen you before. I know you haven't, Mr. Jennings, she said, without even glancing at him. She turned back to Croft. My client is the sole and legal inventor of the technology platform that has just been presented to you as Aura. We hold U.S. Provisional Patent Application Number 63,582,194, filed over a year ago, and the subsequent non-provisional patent which is currently pending, detailing the entire architecture and methodology of the system. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick document, placing it on the table with a soft thud. This is a copy of the filing, and this, she said, placing a single sheet of paper on top of it, is a cease and desist letter, ordering Mr. Jennings to immediately halt any and all representation, development, and solicitation related to this intellectual property. The silence in the room was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. Mark finally found his voice, a high-pitched, panicked sound. This is insane. She's lying. I invented this. This is my idea. Julian Croft wasn't looking at Mark. He was looking at Miss Evans. He picked up the cease and desist letter, his eyes scanning it quickly. He was a man who understood risk, and he could see a mountain of it piling up in his boardroom. Who is your client? Croft asked, his voice dangerously low. Miss Evans finally turned her head and looked at Mark. A cool, dismissive glance. My client's name is Alex Petrov, Mr. Jennings' cousin. I wish I could have seen Mark's face in that moment. I wish I could have bottled that expression and kept it on my mantle. All the color drained from his face. The charm, the confidence, the arrogance. It all evaporated, leaving behind a scared, pathetic fraud. Alex, he stammered. No. He helped me. He was just a coder I hired. Croft slammed his hand down on the table, making everyone jump. Did you or did you not disclose that there was another creator involved with a potential claim to the IP? He roared, his voice echoing in the silent room. Did you lie on your disclosure forms? It was my idea. He just wrote some code, Mark pleaded, his voice cracking. Miss Evans stepped in again, her voice cutting through his pathetic whining. The law is quite clear on the distinction between an idea and an invention, Mr. Croft. An idea is I want a car that can fly. An invention is the detailed schematic for the anti-gravity engine that makes it possible. My client is the inventor. Mr. Jennings, at best, was a potential business partner who attempted to misappropriate that invention. Julian Croft stood up. He looked at Mark with a level of disgust I could feel through the phone as Miss Evans recounted it. The deal is off, he said, his voice like ice. Get out of my boardroom. And Mr. Jennings, you should know that Vanguard Ventures has a very long memory. If you bring another idea within 100 miles of this valley, I'll make sure every door is slammed in your face before you even knock. You are finished. Mark just stood there speechless, as Miss Evans calmly packed her briefcase. He was a statue of a broken man. He had flown as high as he could, and in the space of 5 minutes, he had been thrown back to earth, his wings torn off. The aftermath was a quiet storm. The news of the disastrous meeting spread like wildfire through the tech and venture capital communities. Mark wasn't just rejected, he was a pariah. A cautionary tale. The guy who tried to screw over his own family and lied to Julian Croft. His parents, my aunt and uncle, tried to call me. They left long, rambling voicemails. First, they were angry, accusing me of sabotaging Mark. Then, as the reality of the situation sunk in, the tone changed to desperate pleading, asking me to fix this, to talk to Mark, to not ruin the family over a misunderstanding. I didn't answer. I didn't owe them an explanation. I didn't owe them anything. My own parents called, and I told them everything. From the very beginning, the hurt in their voices was real, but so was their pride. 2 weeks after the meeting in San Francisco, I got a phone call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Is this Alex Petrov? A deep voice asked. It is. This is Julian Croft. My heart stopped for a second. Mr. Petrov, he said, and there was a hint of respect in his voice. I've reviewed the patent application your lawyer left with me. It's brilliant. More than that, the way you handled your cousin was strategic. You waited until the stakes were highest. You protected your asset without showing your hand. That shows foresight. That's a skill that's just as valuable as writing code. He paused. The offer of $10 million still stands. But this time, it's for the right founder. It's for you. If you're interested, my door is open. I ended up taking that meeting. I built my own team, on my own terms. We launched Aura 18 months later, and it was a success. I never became a charismatic frontman like Mark tried to be. I didn't need to. The product spoke for itself. As for Mark, I heard he moved back home. He lost all his money, all his connections, and all his credibility. The last I heard, he was working a dead-end sales job for a company that sells office supplies. We haven't spoken since that day in my aunt's kitchen. Sometimes I wonder if I feel guilty. I don't. He didn't just try to steal my company. He tried to steal my life's work and erase me from my own story. Revenge, I learned, isn't always a fiery, passionate act. Sometimes it's cold. It's calculated. It's a provisional patent filed in secret. It's a quiet, patient wait while your enemy builds his own prison. And it's the profound, silent satisfaction of watching him turn the key on himself. He didn't just lose a company. He lost himself, because his entire identity was built on a lie. And I was free. because I had fought for the truth. Thank you for listening to my story. It's a reminder that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should be paying the most attention to. If you've ever felt betrayed or underestimated, I hope this gives you a little bit of strength. What do you think? Was I right to wait, or should I have confronted him earlier? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Thanks again for watching.